Hello everyone and welcome to today's live stream. Today we are going to be building a front end to fetch our service status that is being saved into Prometheus from this our node server and then displaying it for users to see, right? As a recap, if you're joining us for the first time, this is the Shardeum's live stream. We do this every Thursday. And we have been building up our status page. What we want to have at the end of the day is something similar to GitHub's status page. If you go to githubstatus.com, you would see that status page. We are trying to build something like that, but instead of GitHub's services, we want to monitor Shardeum's services like the RPC server, like the archiver, like the monitor server, and so on and so forth. We have a couple of those services here. So what we want to do today is fetch those data that is coming from our Prometheus time series database and show it on the UI so that users can see when our services are up and when the services are down. So that's the task we've got today. So let's go ahead and kick it off. So I'm going to create a new directory here. Let's call it front end. Right, and then inside that front end directory, I want to create a new Nextjs app. I'm going to use @latest, so we can use Nextjs 14. And should we give it a name? It's already a front end, so I don't think we need to give it a name anymore. Okay, we do need to give it a name. Let's call it GUI. Yes to TypeScript, no to ESLint, yes to Tailwind CSS. We will use the src directory, app router, yes. Okay, so it's going to install a couple of packages for us. TypeScript, the TS Node package, TS React, TS React DOM, Post CSS, and Tailwind CSS. So it's basically just going to bootstrap a Nextjs project for us with all of these packages installed. Let's give it a few seconds. And I think it might be small, so let me zoom into it a bit so that it's easier on the eye for everyone who's watching. I think this font size is enough. It's good enough to give a good visibility into the code base. So while this is installing, let me take this opportunity to actually show you what I'm talking about. It's something like this. If you've seen GitHub's status page, it looks like this basically. So this is a couple of different services, and the check marks here indicate that they are operational. If any of these services are down, you would probably see a red checkbox and to show you that that service is offline. So that is what we are trying to recreate, and we've got Prometheus. Actually, let me start that service. I will start that service when I get there. This is the Prometheus server. I will get to it, but first let's since our Nextjs project is ready to be worked on, let's just go ahead and start working on it. So we see the front end folder here. So let's actually go ahead and run that. So I'm going to cd into the GUI that I just created, and let's do npm run dev to run the Nextjs project. So this should be ready in port 3000. Let's check that. Let's do localhost 3000. Give it a few seconds. And there it goes. So we have a basic Nextjs project. I'm going to remove all of these things that we have here now so that we can start from a clean slate. I think I can collapse the terminal for now. And let's just have a hello world in here. I'm going to have a H1 that says hello world, and then I'm going to get rid of all the default CSS styles. I just want the Tailwind ones, the Tailwind utilities. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Cool. All right, so for this project, I'm going to remove the image as well. We don't need that. So what we want to do basically is grab our data from Prometheus and just show it in the template. So let's do that. Let's do const fetch status is going to be an async function. And the data we want to show here is the data that Prometheus has about our services, right? If you haven't joined us in the previous streams, we have Prometheus here that we've configured to poll our server every 10 seconds. So every 10 seconds, Prometheus is going to ping our server at this port, and then whatever value it gets back. So basically the value is going to get back is, hey, this service is online, this service is offline, things like that. So what we want to do is grab that data out of Prometheus and show it on our front end. The URL that we use to fetch that data from Prometheus, let me actually grab that. And then let's set up that API call here. Let's do const response is going to await fetch, and what we want to fetch is this URL. So this is the URL to query our data from Prometheus, but the value of the query is going to be the name of our Prometheus instance. So let's open our monitor and grab it from here. So I'm going to grab that and then put that here. So this is where we get our value, our data from. Because we're using Nextjs and because this data changes fairly often, I want to revalidate the cache every 5 seconds. So let's do that here. Next. And then we have to revalidate to set it to 5 seconds. So every 5 seconds, it should bust the cache and just give us fresh content. Cool. And then I want to say const data is going to be await response.json. And this should give us our data, right? Let's log that and see what that looks like. Log our data. And then in here, I want to do const data equal to await fetch status. Hang on. Like that. But I need to make this function async now. Did I misspell it? Oh, fetch status as well. Cool. So I'm going to run this. I'm going to save this, and we should get some stuff in the console. What is going on? What are we doing wrong? Refused. What is that? I'm not sure what this is yelling about. 1990. Okay, sorry. The issue is Prometheus is not running. I said we're going to run that when we need it, but I forgot to run that. So let's do that now. I'm going to do Prometheus. Okay, now Prometheus is running. I'm going to give it at least 10 seconds so that it can do the first data poll. So we will have some data to request for, basically. And let me show you how and where Prometheus runs. It runs on port 9090. Cool. And let me check our target. See, the server is still down. I guess it's still propagating because I just started it. If I give it a few more seconds, it should be up and running because we have it working locally here. So let's just give it a few more seconds. Okay, you know what? My node server is not running, actually. Let's do npm start. Yeah, I should have started all these services before I, tried to fetch data from them. Prometheus is now running, but my node server, which I've configured to be the target, is not yet online, which is why we couldn't get Prometheus to be online as well. But it's working now, so I think if I refresh this page, I should see that the server is up, and I should get some data back. So we're getting data back now. So all the values are 1, which means all my services are online. So these are the data that we want to grab from Prometheus and show on our front end. Okay, so now I'm going to check my GUI. I'm going to save again and see if I get something in the console. Exactly, I get this. So it's a data.data.result. So let's log that out and see what's in there. Cool. So I see that we have for each service that we get value back for, we have this metric object that holds all our values, and the value object that holds the time, which is the latency for this service, and the value of the response call, which is 1, indicating that the service is online. Okay, all right, we're getting our data back. But one thing that you can notice though is that every 10 seconds, we're going to get a new data added to this bucket, right? This is the best way to show it off to you. Let me zoom in a bit here. So now you see that we have the first 7 services coming in. If I reload this page, you see that we get a ton more because we get new 7 services every 10 seconds, right? What we want to do is grab the latest, right? Not the whole thing, right? We want to grab the last one that entered this bucket, which represents the latest service at this time. As you can see now, we see that one of the services is 0, which means it's down. Okay, so let's create a function that basically goes through this bucket and grabs the latest ones for us, as opposed to the whole thing. And let's do that here. Before we do that, actually, I don't need all of these details, right? I want to create a new array that has just the name, the timestamp, and the value, right? I don't need everything else. So let's do that. Let's create a services array. Const services is going to be data.result.map. That's cool. I like that. Then I'm going to create a new object, and then inside that object, we need name. This is going to be service.metric.name because we have metric and name in the response. So let's do service.metric.name, and then we need the value, which is this value here. Inside of the value array, we want to grab the second item, not the first one. So let's do that. Let's grab value is going to be service.value. Actually, it's a string and I need it as an integer. So let's do that. Let's convert it to, let's do parse int, and then I want to have service value 1, and let's have 10 here for the integer. And then the last thing I want is the timestamp, right? Which is this one here, the timestamp, not this latency. So let's do timestamp is going to come from service.metric.timestamp. Great. Okay, so what this is doing for us basically is, if I log the services object, now we basically get a new array of object that has only these 3 values, and these are the only 3 values we care about at this point. So let me do that actually. What am I doing? Let's log services and see what we get. Cool. So now you see what I mean. We have this array that just gives us all the items we care about without all the jargon. But our previous problem remains. Oh, I see that timestamp is undefined. Why is that? What are we getting from the server? We're getting, oh, there's a E missing. So let's misspell that. Cool. Now we get our services. Okay, so our initial problem remains. We're getting new values every 10 seconds, so this bucket is continuing to grow. So now we can write that function to grab the latest services. So I'm going to collapse this a bit, and let's do that here. So let's call it newest services. Let's do const newest services. Let me see if I like this. Services.reduce, we have the accumulator, we have the service. Okay, I'm just going to call this current. And then I'm going to close this off here. Cool. Then what I want to do is get the current service, right? Let's do const current service. Should I call it current service or should I call it service name? Let's get the name of the current service. Yes. service name is going to be current.name, right? And then we want to get the current timestamp as well. So let's do const current timestamp is going to be, since we did parse int for the is going to be current timestamp. That is, I like that. I'm happy with that. And then what I want to do is basically check if the service name current already exists in the accumulator, or that it doesn't exist, in which case we then add it to the accumulator. So let's do if accumulator service.name. If it doesn't exist, then we add it, right? Let's do accumulator service.name is going to be the current service. If that is not the case, let me just make some space here. If that is not the case, what I want to do then is I'm going to compare the the current timestamp with the existing timestamp, right? Because basically, okay, let's do that actually. Let's do const existing timestamp is going to be the timestamp of the current service in the accumulator, and then we can compare this and this to know which one is the newer service, right? And that's the one we want to return. So let's do if the current timestamp is greater than the existing timestamp, then we want to add that service to the accumulator, and then we will return our accumulator here. Okay, fantastic. The next thing I want to do is, because this is what we return from this function, I want to convert that into an array. So let's do const services array will be, let's do object.keys, and we do newest services. All right, so this would give us an array, and then let's log that and see what it looks like, just to be sure that we're getting the right thing. Let's save, and I'm getting only the names of the recent services as opposed to the whole object. So let's see what I'm doing wrong. Okay, oh, I see that I'm logging the keys instead of the values. Sorry about that. Let's do object.values. Cool, now we get what we need. We get an array of the most recent services. Now, this is the array that we need to basically iterate over to show our users the state of the current services. So let's do that here. I'm going to return the services array. Then I can get rid of this one. So now when I get data from here, what I'm getting actually is the services array that I returned from fetch status. All right, so the next thing that is left to do is basically have our Tailwind CSS markup that is going to show this data the way that we want it. I have that markup ready, so I'm just going to grab that and save you all the stress of watching me type it all out again. So I'm going to put that here and let's walk through it. All right, so I'm mapping through the data, the services array data, and if the value of the service is 1, we have the operational text to represent that that service is online. If the value is not 1, then that value is offline, right? Now, for when the service value is 1, so this is when that service is operational, then we want to show a checkbox that basically says the service is operational, it's going to be green in color. If the value is not 1, the checkbox is going to be red in color to visually indicate that the service is not online. So that's pretty much it. So when I save this, I think we should have everything we need on the UI now. So let's check back on our Nextjs app, and there we go. We see that the archiver is online. Everything is online except the Explorer. So let's actually check why that is the case. I'm going to grab the URL for the Explorer. If the Explorer is actually down, that would be surprising because I didn't know that the Explorer is down until right now. So let's check that. Look at that, it's actually down. It's not loading. Okay, well, if you're watching this live stream, you're probably one of the few persons that knows that the Shardeum Explorer is down at this time. Maybe some work is ongoing in the Explorer page, but that is a way to also kind of like understand that this service that we're building here is really important, because now if you're looking at this page, you basically know at all times when our services are online and when it's offline. So this is the duration of the live stream today. This is as much as we wanted to cover in this live stream. So on the next live stream, my colleague Sonia is going to walk us through the process of setting up Shardeum to work locally on your machine, right? We're going to go through the process of basically optimizing your local machine to set up the environment the right way to run Shardeum. And then when we've done that and installed the necessary packages, then we're going to clone the Shardeum server locally, run it, and see what it looks like to actually have the Shardeum network running locally on your machine. All of that is going to happen on the next stream, so do not miss it, and I hope to see you there. Bye.